Welcome back to Exquisitely Aligned, where we know the answers are on the inside. And we believe in allowing you to go deep to your soul to find your truths, your desires, and your gifts, and I should say to reconnect with them. And therefore you can live the life that's waiting for you, that amazing life that calls to you at the wee hours of the night, your finest life. I'm Gina Meyer Vincent, your host, and today I'm excited to have back with me because we had so much fun last time. And if you haven't listened to that episode yet, listen to it next. Meet Malvina Messler, the quantum success coach, speaker, author, and Paris retreat host extraordinaire. As a co-founder of a national franchise brand and a former vice president of 2 technology companies, Malvina empowers women to unleash their inner CEO energy and design lives on their terms. She has done just that by embracing a global lifestyle, dividing her time between Colorado, which she was last time, and today California, close to me, and Paris, where she hosts her signature women's retreat. Welcome back, Malvina. I'm so excited to have our time together again today.
Thank you for having me, Gina. I love talking to you. We have so much in common, but I'm really excited to dive into all the juicy topics we have.
Yes. And so last time we spoke, we covered so many things, but then we realized there was more to talk about. And so today, I don't believe we went too deep into this last time. So I want to go into it today a little bit deeper and then add some other fun things in that really enhance this topic. And so I know I have felt misunderstood since I was very young. I never quite fit in. I grew up in New York, which is a melting pot like nobody's business. My dad's an immigrant from Germany. My mom's first generation American, Italian. And even though it was a melting pot, I always saw the world very differently than the people around me. And at times it made me feel like I was alone. And then luckily I grew up and started embracing this. I'd say in high school, I started sewing. I made my own clothing so that I didn't look like anybody. And then I was paid by friends to make their clothing. So it was quite a bit of fun. But today I'd love to talk about how feeling misunderstood or being misunderstood, right? Because sometimes it's just we feel that way, maybe we're not, can have us feeling like we're alone. And sometimes being alone can feel lonely. Sometimes we're alone and it feels fabulous, right? So it's more like feeling lonely. So misunderstood and lonely. So if you can, Malvina, I know this is a big ask, but share with us, have there ever been times in your life where you felt either or both at the same time?
You know, I think I would be very unique to say that I didn't, because, anytime I talk to anyone, we seem to all have moments in life. And sometimes they're not just moments, they're chapters.
Right.
So not to recap what we talked about in the last episode, but just to refresh your listeners' memory, is that I come from Poland originally, and I spent half of my life in the United States. And so you can imagine that to make a decision to immigrate to America must have been related to something. And for me, it was partially related to the fact that I felt misunderstood in Poland. Why was I feeling that? Well, back then I grew up in times of communism, so the mindset was so different. And I was very fortunate because my mom was a very entrepreneurial woman, very much ahead of her times. And no surprise, she ended up becoming a life coach, and now she's an executive coach. And so she was really installing a lot more open-minded ideas when she was raising me. And I am so grateful for it. But as you can imagine, none of them relate. And so I felt really lonely with that. She gave me the biggest gift expanding my mind, thinking bigger, dreaming bigger. And there I was with colleagues who couldn't relate, with the reality that
Mm,
didn't match that. And so naturally so, I was
right.
seeking an environment that would allow me to fit in and to be understood. And that was
Mhm.
part of my journey to actually move to the United States.
Yeah. And I love that. And I mean, I think sometimes living here, we take for granted all the freedoms we have and that entrepreneurial spirit, that a lot of people we take for granted, whereas in other countries, especially back when it was communistic, right? Very different. And I think last time we may have even used the word, I don't know if I wrote dismal down or gray or like, bland, unlike the way you appear today, right? Lively, colorful, bright, beautiful. So that is wonderful. Yes. And I think being able to feel understood, we can do it in so many different ways. I like to say through self-expression. And so today I'd love to go deep into the art of creating beauty in our lives. And for me, that goes to so many facets of our lives. We can just start here and then we'll move through each of them and I'll ask you how you do it in your life and so forth. But for me, if you haven't already listened, there's an entire season 2 will create for the art of creating beauty. And it goes through different steps and how you can add more beauty into your life so that you can express yourself. And I know, Malvina, I shared with you that I've had a desire for beauty in my life ever since I was very young. And I think my mother, who often listens in on the show, but I think she may have thought it was for the fascination of things that were expensive. And for me, it wasn't really about the money. It was more about like the beauty, like in art, in an exquisite building, whether it be a hotel. And yes, usually that was a more expensive hotel, right, than a motel, and but also in nature. And so I want to ask you, when or how did you first, well, first I'm going to assume, which probably I shouldn't, but I think when I met you, which was a lovely brief meeting, and it may have been in the ladies' room at a networking event, but a quick pass by at the sink washing our hands. But I looked at you and I thought you may share this same desire for beauty. Was I right?
100%. And I think that's why we gravitated towards each other. Even in the bathroom, we just saw each other and I admired your look. You had fabulous style. From
Thank you.
hair to accessories to your outfit, it just really was speaking to me. This is a woman who knows who she is and she celebrates her own style, own beauty, and comfortable with who she is, and she's self-expressed. And so that's what I stand for in life as well. And no wonder we had a conversation. For me, it all started pretty early. And you mentioned your mom. Gosh, our moms really play a big role in our lives, don't they?
Yes.
My mom actually was a big art lover. She
Mm.
grew up very poor in a low village, and she truly there was no art, no galleries, but she really
Wow.
developed that affinity for appreciating fine art, and to the point that she opened 2 art galleries,
Wow.
and I had a chance to work in those. I was, I think, gosh, 13 years old, 14 years old. I already learning English, and it was in an international hotel in Poland where most patrons of the art were actually oftentimes American tourists.
Ah,
So I got to spruce up put my English to use, and then learn business,
yeah,
transactions, and appreciate art. And our house was
yes,
filled with artwork. Literally, there was not enough walls for all the paintings. And
yes, I love that.
it was a paradise. My friends were always, admiring all the beauty in our
Yeah,
house. So that's how it started. But I appreciated it, and it became my norm, and
yes,
seeked it out. And also growing up in Europe, mind you, architecture, the beauty of
yes,
architecture itself, even going to church.
yeah,
I'm more spiritual now than religious, but back then, growing in Poland, 95% of Polish people were Catholic, including me. And the churches in Poland, oh my goodness, they
yeah,
are works of art. So just sitting in that environment every Sunday for an
yeah.
hour, surrounded by beauty, it just became my certain, I would say, beauty thermostat was set pretty
Yes, yeah,
high.
yeah. I like that beauty thermostat. It's so true. And as you're describing those churches, right? I've not been to Poland, but Italy, France, Spain, Germany, can't remember a couple others that are not coming to my mind fast enough. But those churches in Europe are, if you not only are they amazingly beautiful works of art, the architecture, but to think how many decades ago, that they were built, sometimes, centuries ago or a century ago, and that, they didn't have, what do they call it now? Computer aided drawing, CADs, and all these things, it's just, it is. And I was already feeling that feeling of, so how would you describe from an energy standpoint, living in a home that had more artwork than walls? I mean, I'm just getting goosebumps.
It truly what it, and we know both appreciate the energy and work with the energy. And so as energetic beings, there is a certain
Mhm.
frequency and vibration to us, and so the same applies to everything that surrounds us. And in a home where there is so much beauty, every
Mhm.
piece that we had, the amount of effort that it went into this masterful piece, and the
Mhm.
amount of mastery and skills, and also inspiration and imagination.
Yes.
Art requires imagination. It was just the our life was filled with it. And today, looking, then back then I might have taken it for granted, but today I have a term for it. And for me, I call it life in high vibration, because
Yes.
whenever
Mhm.
you're surrounded by things that are beautiful, and they may not necessarily always be beautiful by the traditional standards.
Right.
To take my story a little farther, by the time I was in college, I actually chose to study philosophy. Uh,
Mhm.
and it was the beginning of my journey that led me to becoming a spiritual practitioner down the road. But in studying philosophy, there are different types of philosophy. I could have focused on logic, on ontology, and what I focused on was aesthetics. So the
Mhm.
philosophy of beauty, and that really
Yes.
appealed to me. And so I studied the history of art and
Mhm.
what it really meant, what the word beauty meant throughout the years. And,
Mhm.
ancient time beauty meant it is symmetrical, it is harmonious. And you could
Mhm.
call something beautiful, whether it was a person or a painting, if it was very much balanced. But
Yes.
over time, we found artists who totally flipped that paradigm
Yes.
and shook us to our core. And, we have artists like Marcel Duchamp that put a toilet seat in an art gallery and called it beauty. So I love that we're having this conversation because beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And
Yes.
I find that, just from the fabrics that I wear, from the patterns that are on my clothes, from the way I carry my hair and earrings, those little details put me in higher vibrational state. And looking at your background and the beautiful art in your home and your office, and you mentioned even things you purchased, the cars you drive, or um, the furniture we choose in our home,
Right.
can truly create an environment that I believe aids our creative process.
Yes.
And the moment we can tap into creativity, we tap into the quantum field of opportunities, because we are the creators of our life. And so if our environment is as, and I think dreary was the word we might have been looking for in terms of describing the community. It was the very dreary environment, and it was not an environment that promoted and really cultivated us problem solving, innovating, creating. And therefore, like Einstein says, you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. So we can raise our vibration. And when when our environment is inspiring, suddenly we get to raise our head and we can see solutions to our problems. We can think more creatively. So it's not just an appealing and pleasant life, but there is actually a power in problem solving and the way we navigate life.
And I love that. A couple things that you just said sparked things to talk about. Well, many things to talk about, but let's start with that vibration. I mean, I think the saying in English is beauty is superficial. And I don't believe that for 1 second. For me, beauty is super fuel. It is really that exchange between the object and its admirer. And like you were saying, that house, that church, those things spark our creativity. And I am forever, this house, I've been pretty good. These walls, this is the second color I've changed them to. And most of the others, I kept the same color. But normally it's about now, every 2.5, 3 years, that I start changing the decor of the rooms, because I like change and I like being creative and I like being inspired by new art, whatever surroundings. It could be even like you were talking about the print on your clothing. I have learned the hard way that when I'm filming with this painting behind me, I can't really wear too many prints, but I love yours. At any rate, that's a piece of art right there. So it could be, like you said, a print on our clothing, wearing the right colors. I do color analysis for my clients, and it's always amazing how they see themselves. I had someone recently tell me, "Oh, but olive green has always been a good color for me. Look." So I said, "Hey, let me pull out my olive green fabric and let's put the right colors beside and go back and forth." And all of a sudden she could see not only did it change the brightness in her face, it pulled it dull, dreary, and it made her teeth darken. It was really, that quickly. So we can change that vibration that you were talking about so quickly. The other thing that I loved was how we used to see beauty as very symmetrical, totally balanced. And then there was this shift. I did an entire episode called Flowers, Fibonacci, and My Face. And the idea is that, flowers are not symmetrical. I was in an art class and the teacher said, look at beauty in nature. Nature is not perfect. And I perked up like, no, but nature is perfect. I didn't say it out loud, but in my heart of hearts, that's how I felt. And so I really started to what is this person teaching us? This is wrong. And then finally she put some slides back then in the day when we didn't have whiteboards, but she put some slides up and showed, like you were speaking about, it's not symmetrical. And it made me think about my girlfriend who took a photo of each of us and then she was going to run it through her Facetune app to make everybody look younger. And as a mother of two, I didn't want her to do that to me. She's like, oh, look, we'll do this, we'll do that. And I was like, yeah, but the problem is, I said to her, the problem is if I step outside and you post that, I go on my merry way and I bump into somebody 30 minutes from now, they're going to look at the phone and go, she looks awful. Like, here she looks great. Why does she look awful in person? So I like to ask people to appear imperfectly perfect, and not be so worried about being symmetrical, being the right size. But like you're saying, I like to think of our jewelry, our hair, our makeup, if we wear makeup, clothing, obviously, as, decorations. And I think we're so lucky, to live at a time where we get to pick clothing that expresses how you feel today versus tomorrow.
Oh, I love everything you said, and especially that golden nugget, beauty is a super fuel. Ooh, that's a good one. That's a good one. I'm gonna keep that with me. And you mentioned the self-expression part. I can recall time, even as I moved to America, where anything is possible, where I can be whoever I want and I can truly be myself because that's what America stands for. And yet what happened on my journey is as I got into the business world, I found myself selling a piece of myself little by little because of the first question you asked me is where I didn't feel like I fit in. I actually felt I was too self-expressed in terms of my fashion. European, and I looked at everyone else who had more seniority, more experience, and because I was climbing the ladder of the business world, I thought, oh my gosh, I better look like them. So I started putting on the black suits, pantsuits, and like the generic clothes, just so I could get the respect, so people would take me seriously. Otherwise, everyone was just focused on my fashion. And I thought, gosh, no, focus here on my intellect. Right. I purposefully started really, trading my personality and personal choices for what would make me fit in. And I definitely regretted it later on. And now I was
going to ask you, right? The problem, yes, we can do that. And many people do. And I apologize for jumping in, but you got me excited because this is something that very much is, things I work on with women and men. And I do believe we live in a one-size-fits-all world, one-size-fits-all paradigm, where we're asked to, if you want to be in this field, dress like this. It's not said, it's not handed to you on a sheet of paper or emailed or voiced to you, but there is this energy, this give me a minute, it's not coming to me, mass consciousness that is kind of like playing on us, which I think is what you are alluding to, that energy of like, oh, now she's, I'm going to use the word fashionista. I don't know what they were thinking, but here she comes, movie star quality. And you're like, hey, but I got the brains too. I just like to adorn myself and express myself. So that I'm a fun, art-loving, creative person, but I am brilliant, and you were saying it's like we had to tone down, or at least I feel like you're saying you had to tone down that shining brilliantly and kind of compromise to what the quote unquote norm was for your field. And it happens in marriages, it happens in careers, it happens in schooling, it happens for teenagers, schooling as college, career, so forth, your industry. And so I want to ask you, I know you said it didn't work out, but how did it feel when you were trying to wear that black suit? Did you feel like you were going to a funeral or like,
it definitely felt more like the energy was draining out of me. It wasn't uplifting. And you mentioned, something in terms of like, I felt like I was dimming my light for sure. But at that time, I didn't have the consciousness. I didn't have the understanding. So I thought that was the only thing, that was the right way to do it. It wasn't about me. And I just felt disempowered in the process. And so, and I felt lost. So there I was in Poland, misunderstood. Suddenly I'm in America, misunderstood. And the funniest thing was, because of course I have an accent. So anytime I would be in America, everyone would recognize that I had an accent. I was speaking with an accent, Eastern European accent. And when I would go home after being here for several years, to Poland, and everyone was saying, "Wow, you have an accent."
That's right. So you're like,
So suddenly I was in a limbo. There was not a place, no
right.
longer even speaking Polish. I no longer was just speaking Polish in a Polish accent. I was speaking with American accent, and of course I was speaking English with Polish accent. And it remains the same today. I haven't changed. You can hear my accent, and I learned to embrace it. And I will say that I had a friend who had a very similar upbringing to me, in a very cultural and intellectual family in Poland. She ended up in New York City, and a beautiful, melting pot. You are from New York, you spent some time there, so you know very well. And somehow, in her experience of life, her accent, she felt like it was not serving her well, and she almost was embarrassed by it and tried to hide it. And for me, my accent was like the badge of honor. I was very proud, and I am proud today. And I use it as my networking, accessory. And I'm a speaker, and you are too. So I find it very helpful, and I really learned to turn it into the strength for me, into something that actually helps me in life, differentiates me. And I think that took many years for me to be able to see, wow, those things that I was to really fit in and maybe just dim my light. These are the things that make me unique, and these are the things that will make me successful in business, that will make me fulfilled in life, because I will be fully self-expressed and in my unique truth. And that will also become my contribution, because there's already so many people who wear suits. We don't need more. We need people like you and I who can have a different perspective. There's another way to go about it.
No, it's so true. So three things have popped up in my mind. So let's see if I can get all three. So first, when you were speaking about your accent, and here they're telling you, here in America, we say you have an accent, where are you from? And then they're saying, oh gosh, now you have an accent, right? That also happens when I was in college. I had a beautiful friend named Margot, and she was hearing impaired. And so she said it was difficult for her because she lived in two worlds. The hearing impaired, where some of her friends did not read lips and did not speak, but she did. She read lips and she could speak, and she spoke very beautifully. It was only when I was really tired that I may have missed a word or two that she was saying, just because I was not on my game. You know what I'm saying? And so I found for her, it was very difficult. She felt alone because of that. She said, my hearing impaired friends from school, she was at college with me, which is a hearing school. And she was lucky enough to have a someone to do sign for her. But she said, my friends from kindergarten through high school, are a little like, who does she think she is? Going to FIT, Fashion Institute of Technology in Manhattan, and studying like everyone else. And then here she was with us, and we traveled to Mexico together with another friend. And, she was traveling around, reading lips as best she could. And so it happens to us. And so interesting about your friend in New York. I mean, everybody has their own experience, right? Based on where they came from and how they see things. But yeah, I always, because my dad still has an accent, it's as if you can imagine German, Southern German with New York, and now he's in North Carolina. So I'll never forget, I was visiting him in North Carolina as they were starting the process of moving. My mom was still in New York. And I was down there looking around to see if I wanted to move. And some of his employees didn't understand what he was saying. So I had to like whisper in, a couple of words. And, and here I am in California, and I lived in North Carolina with my New York accent. I just came from a meeting this morning, and the woman said, "Oh yeah, no, I knew immediately you're from New York by the way you speak." But we do have to embrace those things. Or and I commend you for embracing it, because it makes you who you are and exquisitely you. So let me think. There were two more things that you had mentioned. The black suits, right? How many black suits there are. I'll share a little quick story, but with my hair and my lipstick, I had a colorful outfit on, unlike today. And I was one of the chaperones for my kids when they were in school, elementary school, at the zoo. And somebody said, "Oh, wow, look at you dressed up the way you are," and I was like, yeah, like you, I like to express myself. This is who I am. I love clothing, jewelry, makeup, everything, everything Gina, everything Malvina. And so she kind of said it with tongue in cheek, like a little like, who do you think you are? And I just thought, I just want to make her laugh. So I said, "Look, these kids are short. And so, if they can't find me, all they have to do is look up and they'll find my hair sticking up, or look down and they'll find my colorful sundress, like, because it's like, I think it's sad. Sometimes other people, I don't want to say they take offense. That's not it. They don't share in our joy of expressing ourselves. Have you ever run into that?
Quite a lot. I would hear those words, very similar words, "Wow, where are you going?" Or "What are you dressed for?" Or "What's the big occasion?" And I think in psychology, there is a term for it, like microaggressions, actually.
Oh, micro, yes.
Some people don't know, but that's the effect it has, but it does. And there was a time where I really didn't feel in my power, and I would give in to that, and I would second guess myself. That time is long gone, and truly the key to that was I got so fed up having to explain myself why I don't wear just yoga pants when I go out to a shopping mall, because I feel like life is a special occasion. So everyone would wear a dress with a special occasion. And I believe that life is a special occasion. And we truly dress for ourselves and not for others, then, why not look beautiful? Whether, like, many of us work from home these days, and we could just be in our sweats, and that would probably be just fine. And yet I still choose to dress in things that bring me joy, that inspire, that I feel good in, even though no one might see me here. And so there was a time where I decided, you know what? I'm not buying into this anymore. And that shift happened the more I really healed myself from within, the more I loved myself, the more I accepted myself, the more I truly, truly accepted myself. Because for as long as we cultivate self-doubt in ourselves and don't have the full acceptance, we're going to be very easily swayed by those naysayers and sayers, and we're going to buy into their agenda. But the moment we're fully accepting of ourselves and we really love ourselves, then we can have compassion. So I developed compassion for the people and empathy, because
Yes.
so many of those people, for example, have not been to Europe, and they don't even have a
Right.
point of reference, right? Or they might have not had an opportunity to shop in stores, which, by the way, might not be that much or more expensive at all than your traditional mainstream
Right.
clothing lines, and yet may offer something unique. And so started really understanding, and I kind of started approaching it with this pre-forgiveness. Like, what, I just understand that you don't understand, you don't have a point of reference, so I stopped making them wrong, and I stopped, the main thing was I stopped expecting for them to change. And
Right.
I just
Yes.
accepted them as they were, with what they're gonna say, what they're not gonna say. I smiled, and I still gave myself permission to be me. And I
Yeah.
had to do it over and over and over and over. And now when someone, as you know, I'm a Paris retreat host, so I often wear a scarf like Parisians do, because that's what I'm used to as well. And on so many occasions, I will get someone to say it in my face or text me, wow, you look like a flight attendant. And it's so funny because, and you've been to Paris, when you are actually in France or Italy for that point, women, Italian women, French women, they wear scarves all the time.
Right.
And that's part of the fashion. There is a low wind, there is this, there is weather.
Oh, yes. Well, and you're out. So I think that, most people don't realize they're walking. Where here we get into a car, we have the luxury of everyone has a car or two or three. And, so yes, I always pack my scarves when I'm traveling abroad, because there is you said a little wind. There were sometimes it was a lot of wind, especially for those of us who don't have hair on the back of the neck, touching the back or the front of the neck. So, yes, but
so
you're so right.
Yeah, so it's not just the flight attendant look, it's truly something that is literally an everyday thing for most women. You don't even have to be a woman of a certain, in a financial bracket to be able to afford those things. Pretty much most women in France and Italy have the scarves and shawls. And so I understand that people who make those comments might have not been to those countries, might have not experienced this. And I stopped, getting really triggered by it because I know that this is who I am now. And I give myself permission to show up being me and being comfortable with no matter what the world sees. And the truth is that I'm sure, if I was to guess, you probably became more successful the moment you started really embracing who you are, because you just mentioned even your services in terms of color and fashion styling for other women. So you turn your own self-expression into a gift that now you get to share with the world. So imagine if every one of us gave themselves permission to do just that, how more opportunities would that open up?
Yeah, and I think that was three more things that you just said. That's our number today, 3. So I totally agree with you about Europe and fashion. My grandmother, grandfather, 2 uncles and aunt in Germany owned hair salons. And so as a little girl growing up here in America with a German dad whose parents and siblings owned hair salons, it was very important that our hair had a style. We were not allowed to just let it grow and grow and grow. And so it was always, we had haircuts, and money was always, allocated to haircuts and good shoes and so forth, because our feet were important. Of course, as I grew up, I wanted more stylish shoes that weren't always like in the what's the right word, fit in the realm of what my parents thought were healthy for the feet. But, live and learn. But anyway, I had someone recently say to me, she's European, like, oh yeah, I could tell you have European roots because you dress even to go to the gym. And I was like you hit on it. You said life is a special occasion and we dress for ourselves. And so I had to write that down so I make sure I repeat as you said. And I agree with you wholeheartedly. You know, my husband was saying, are you going to wear false eyelashes every day? I said, yes, because if I die today, at least I like look good, right? You know, like this is, and because we almost lost him 15 years ago, it'll be 15 years ago on November 19th, to kidney and liver failure. Yes, life is a special occasion. We are so blessed to wake up every morning, to choose from our closet. And I'm not saying your closet has to be, you know, half the size of your home, but just that you get to pick special pieces that make you feel like you're going to a special event, even if that's coming from upstairs, downstairs to my home office, you know, to meet my clients or to meet you today to film. I agree with you on all of those. And then to touch on the permission, I believe when you were talking about you giving yourself permission to go back to expressing your passion for fashion and jewelry and all things beautiful, magnificent. I believe that anytime any one individual, whether it be a child, an adult female, adult male, it doesn't matter who we are or where we are in our life. When we give ourselves permission, the bigger thing is we give others permission.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, I'm sure it's happened to you. I've had people come over and they're like, look, I'm wearing my Gina dress. And I'm like, oh, okay, let's see, twirl, you know? And it's like, it doesn't have to be your Gina dress. It should be whatever if your name is Susie, then it's your Susie dress, you know, but it's, and I'm sure you've had the same thing. I've had clients go and cut their hair after working with me, you know, and initially they would say, I could never cut my hair. And I'm like, you know, tell me what's going to happen. You know, like I always say, you can wear a scarf when you get cold. Believe me, I wear sometimes too, you know, especially if I'm in New York. But, you know, I think as we express ourselves, we give permission for others to do the same. And I think that is a gift that just keeps giving and giving and giving. So I want to say, Malvina, thank you for getting out of the black suit and coming back to your truths and your desire for beauty and your gifts for decorating your home and adorning your body, because I know what that does, you know, as you walk through the grocery store, like you said, the mall, it inspires others to go, hey, you know what? I have a cute dress too. I could be wearing, or whatever that is. I have a beautiful necklace. You know, I hate when I hear people tell me they have this gorgeous engagement ring or wedding band that is in the safe. You know, it's like, are you still married to him? Yes. Okay. Well, don't you think he would like to see you wearing it? Don't you think he's kind of scratching his head going, does she not want to be married to me? Does she not want to know people to know they're married? You know, but I think when we keep those beautiful things in our closet or the safe, we're doing a disservice to ourselves, as you were talking about that vibration.
And even to the artists that created them, right? Artists, I believe, you know, there is so much joy in creating that art piece, but there is even more joy in that being observed and appreciated by others. So yes, and I loved what you said earlier about, you know, us giving ourselves permission, and you mentioned the women that get inspired by your outfits or your hairstyles. It brings me to the story of one woman who came with me to Paris, attended my Paris retreat, and the whole retreat is actually centered around the journey of self-discovery and self-love, and self-expression is part of it. And I remember when she signed up, she said, you know, just FYI, I'm not the girly girl. I wear jeans and t-shirts. And so I
You
know,
said, you just wait, my friend, right?
right? But you know, I actually, a lot of people think, and why did she say
Right.
that? Because when they look at me, they think that I am going to turn everyone looking like me. And the
No.
truth was that I stand for authentic self-expression. So I had
Right.
a woman who's considering coming, and she's got tattoos everywhere, and she's rock and roll. And you know, part of my retreat is a glam photo shoot, and I'm excited to see if she's going to come, what she's going to wear, because it may not be a traditional gown. It may be
Right,
some
right.
really edgy outfit, which would be really cool. But that woman, it was so beautiful because and then, you know, we know that the journey begins before you even go there.
Right.
She started packing, and we had, you know, pre-retreat preparation and calls, and like, because fashion is also practical. So
Right.
what's helpful in Paris? What kind of bags do you wear? What kind of shoes? Trench coats? Like, that's not just a fashion statement. Trench coats is actually very practical in a windy and rainy city. So all those things. And then when she arrived in Paris and I welcomed her, I couldn't believe it. I was like, is this the same woman that said T-shirts and jeans? Every day she had beautiful outfits, and it wasn't like the outfits were wearing her. She was
Right.
wearing the outfits, and they were her own. Like, you could tell that
Mhm.
colors really served her well. So I believe that we all have it in us to
Mhm.
really connect with our soul essence and our
Yeah.
self-expression. But the truth is that, especially in America, I will say, because I lived in many places, you know, it can be very homogenic here in terms of fashion.
Yeah.
So I believe that we all could use a guide, like you, like a
Yes. Yeah.
stylist who can help us. Because if we are not doing that, that doesn't mean that we're incapable. It means that we
Correct.
haven't shown the path, and no one modeled it for us. You know, we grew up in families with amazing hairstylist, and my mom
Mhm.
is a art patron, and so many other people didn't have that model to them.
Correct.
If you don't feel like you don't know where to start, there's always a path forward if you choose to. And there's nothing wrong with not with
Right.
white t-shirt and jeans. And at the same time, if you want to have some fun and see how it feels,
Yes.
to change your environment, beautify it, and invite more beauty into your workspace, into your
Mhm.
fashion choices, then it could be a great adventure.
Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned that because that's where my head was going. And, I like to tell people play. Just play as if you were a little girl again. Many of us have gone through mom's jewelry box, whether it be costume jewelry or real jewelry, right? Whatever we were allowed to touch at a given day. And then shoes and handbags. I mean, my daughter did it, playing through, oh, look at the sunglasses. They were 12 times too big for her face, but adorable, right? And can I try on lipstick? Can I wear a little blush? Things like that. And there are people out there to help, like yourself and I. And I think that it's not about getting it right. It's about experimenting. I'm not asking people to wear red lipstick because then I'm going to have to change my signature red lipstick, right? So we never are asking people to be mini versions of ourselves. It's about them expressing, like you said, their authentic self. I like to say their exquisite self, but it's their truth and what they desire, and that could be on a given day or a given event. What are they looking to achieve? So you mentioned, and I wanted to go there, so let's do it now. The art of creating beauty in our living spaces, whether that be home, our offices, so forth. So how do you bring beauty into your homes, Malvina?
You know, one of the first things is I always have fresh cut flowers. I'm actually looking at the beautiful pink roses right ahead there. I'll also show you a little thing, which is simple. But look at this flower.
Ah, yes.
Right? It's got the pink and
Yeah.
green, and
Yeah.
we've seen those types of flowers, but hardly ever were pink. So
Yeah.
that goes back to us playing and
Yeah.
experimenting. You can go to art shows, even if you
Yeah.
don't have a big budget, that are actually a farmers market, even where artists come
Mm.
doing beautiful things for the home. So you can make it even like a fun adventure on a weekend. Just see what inspires you. And, even starting with paint colors, you mentioned
Yeah.
you paint yourself every few years. And that is truly energetically. It's been told that every 7 years we are a different person, in a sense of all the cells regenerate and we have new cells.
Yes.
And so just like when we get a fresh haircut, we just feel like a brand new person. Same
Absolutely.
thing applies to when, if you might not have a big budget to change the furniture in your home and the total decor, how about just the paint color? Like that is
Mm-hmm.
a great first step. And
Yes.
and so there are so many inexpensive and other tidbits that you can do. But I feel like, from the youngest age, my room as a teenager, my room was my kingdom. And
Yes.
I will tell
Thank
you,
you.
every few months, every season, and as a teenager, there's many phases you go through.
Right.
Phase I went through, I had a different decor. I would just, and my friends would be like carte blanche, whatever you want. And so sometimes it was full on Spanish mode when I was dancing flamenco, taking flamenco classes, and it was red and orange, and I was loving Pedro Almodovar movies, and it was vibrant colors, and everything was all that. It was very much vibrant Spain. And other times it was more gray and silver, and other times it was more woodsy and
Yeah.
everybody. So why not play with it and just have some fun? Because in those moments of play and creativity,
Mm.
both those are actually our portals to the quantum field again, where we can activate our highest potential and really experience life differently.
Mm-hmm. I agree with you on all those levels. And as I walk into my office every morning, I am smelling the Asiatic lilies that are blooming beautifully. I love fresh cut flowers. And somebody was recently here for Purpose Possibilities and Prosecco, and they're like, "Your home is perfect for fresh cut flowers." And I thought to myself, every home is. Even when I lived in a basement apartment in New York illegally, and commuted, worked in Manhattan, that little, I want to say gloomy, it was fabulous because I made it fabulous, but it was an illegal one, big giant studio that I had by myself with one of my pets. And I always had fresh cut flowers in there because I needed that energy and that something beautiful to wake up to in the morning, to eat dinner with, to, go to bed at night. Of course, that place was so tiny. I only needed one arrangement, but, it made all the difference in the world. So,
Do you mind if I add something to it?
no, yeah, please.
I love that you said that it just, even one bouquet of flowers changed everything. And there
Yes.
is a few things visually, the beauty, but also the
Yeah.
scent. So it's
Yes, correct.
but there are some flowers. I used to live in Hawaii, and when I buy them, I feel like I'm in Hawaii. I get that
Yes.
sensation, right? So
Mhm.
suddenly, what it does is my entire nervous system calms down, because when I
Right.
lived there, I was in bliss. So when
Mhm.
I smell it subliminally, our
Yes.
brain goes to relax mode, right?
Yes.
Maybe you've been getting certain flowers from your partner, and then you are in the vibration of love. And
Mhm.
on that note, I will say to those ladies who might be single, like I am right now, there was a time where I would just expect flowers to be, gifted to me by my partner or husband at the time. And I wasn't buying flowers for myself. And then I had an epiphany because I started practicing giving myself what I wanted to be given from others, from my partner.
Yes.
And as I cultivated that self-love, that was one of the acts of self-love. And once I started that practice, now I give myself flowers, and I usually have 2 or 3 bouquets at
Yes.
an given time in different parts of the house. And I don't wait for anyone to gift them to
No.
me. It is what I do for myself. And I know
Yes.
that's the same.
Yes. And I love that. I mean, we're going to be married 24 years in a couple weeks, 2, 3 weeks, whatever it is. Yeah. And I mean, Mark has bought me flowers, but the problem is, you know, I think men just assume when they walk in that all the flowers are fabulous. The truth is, you really have to kind of, I don't want to say rummage through, but you really have to look through and find the ones that are going to be blooming at the right time, or the ones that are not looking like they're on their way out. You know, they're looking sad. So I always say to him, honey, don't worry about it. I'll go buy my own, you know, because I know what colors I want this week or whatever. So, but I am a firm believer in that little apartment I was talking about. I bought those flowers for myself. I was dating somebody fabulous. He bought me flowers on occasion, but I am a firm believer in, we definitely have to, men and women, make sure we give ourselves the things we desire. And it makes relationships so much easier when we are not having an expectation from someone else. That could be a whole nother episode, so I'll leave it at that. But that was actually, it's funny that I should say that now, because that was something I was thinking about this morning with a client I'm waiting to hear back on, but a conversation we haven't finished. But those expectations, when we put them out there, they can leave us disappointed. So why not take care of it ourselves, right? It's fun. So with that, I'm going to bring up the flower cards. But before we do these flowers, I'd love to ask you, Malvina, is there something you'd like to share with us today? An offer or something you have coming up?
Well, one of the biggest things coming up is my Paris retreat for high achieving women that's coming up in May of 2024, and the registration is open. So for those of you ladies who want to experience the magic of Paris and the high vibration lifestyle and the beauty and elegance, that would be my invitation to you, while also cultivating that self-love and self-acceptance in the city of love.
Perfect. And Paris is wonderful. That's a great time of year. And I know, Malvina, you're going to spoil them unbelievably. And I love that. So let's pick a card. And from opening to possibilities, they're journal prompts, contemplation, and conversation starters. They come with 5 hours of music that I curated, each different types of music, 5 different genres. I just have to forgive me, Malvina, because I didn't do a good shuffle before we started. I usually do that. So I'm just going to do a good shuffle now. And then you know the routine, because you've done this before. You're going to just tell me stop when and when to stop, and we'll go from there. Okay, I'm going to start. Oh my gosh. Celebrations. This is a perfect one for what, because we were just talking about life as a special occasion, and it so is. So it's amazing that this is the card you picked. Celebrations mark meaningful moments. What occasions do you celebrate? I think you answered one of those, but what do you do? What do you do? How does doing this enrich your life? And you can pick anything or continue on life as a celebration. I'm going to let you decide.
Yes. Well, I celebrate every moment of our life, because we never know if there will be another one we're given. And I also want to emphasize, I do celebrate my birthday, and I meet too many people in life that are shy about it, and they say, oh, I don't really celebrate. You know what? How we love ourselves is how we others to love us. So I say celebrate your month, birthday month.
Yes.
No, it's not just a birthday. It's not a week. It's a birthday month. And
Yes.
it's not a selfish act. It is truly, because celebration, what is celebration? I
Absolutely.
don't celebrate by myself. I invite others to partake in it. And there is something beautiful. There's a gift in celebrating.
Yes.
Our brain is known to do is it releases those happiness hormones, and celebrating, even if we don't have something to celebrate, but let's say it's your birthday, Gina, and
Right.
you invite me, let's celebrate my birthday.
Yes.
Me tapping into the happiness and joy of your celebration creates those happiness hormones in my brain, and chemicals are released. And so it helps me with my wellness and my brain faculty. So it's actually not a selfish act. Share in and celebrate with others, and you are therefore going to be raising vibration in that moment.
And I love that. You know, it's funny. I do have a friend who celebrates her birthday every other year. And I was like, what? She's like, oh yeah, don't worry. This year I'm not I'm like, I am with you. I think it's fun to celebrate our birthdays. I love the idea of the birthday month. Unfortunately, my month is only 28 days. I'm born in February, but maybe leap year, right? But you know, having had almost lost my husband when our daughter was 2 and our son was in kindergarten, it really puts into perspective. And today now I'm 54, right? So years later, I was just at a meeting this morning, and a woman there was older than 54. I don't know her age, but she said by the time she was 54, she was a widow twice. 2 of her husbands passed. And so we never, we sometimes take for granted, oh, we can celebrate our birthday or their birthday anytime, but that's not always the case. Young or old, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Malvina. Celebrating birthdays is just a beautiful thing. And I love celebrating other people's birthdays too. That the whole thing about the psychology behind it and the endorphins we release and so forth, it's so true. And it gives purpose, I think, to why we're alive and what we're here. So it's no wonder that card was selected today. And you're so delightful to have here. And I know your retreat will be amazing as always. But I want to also extend Purpose Possibilities and Prosecco. So it's been a wonderful journey for those who have joined us. It's 2 hours, and it's transformation like no other, a combination of face reading and transformation and guidance to allow you to remove those blocks that are getting in your way and see all the possibilities that are abundantly awaiting for you. So with this wonderful conversation, Malvina, I want to say thank you for joining me. Thank you for shining your light as always, and for sharing this journey of something that I'm so passionate about being understood, being able to express ourselves. We only have 7 seconds usually to do that before somebody has a decision made about us. And it's usually difficult to change that. And your journey and your desire for the same as I to be surrounded by beauty. So I appreciate you doing that with me today.
Thank you for having me, and to more delightful and connected conversation. And may you live in high vibration.
Thank you. And to all of you, just to remind you, here at Exquisitely Aligned, we believe when you express your truest self outwardly, like we were discussing today, not just in your home, but in your hair, your makeup, your jewelry, your clothing, in the way you speak, in your conversations, in how you plate your food, in who you invite to your dinner table and into your home, you become exactly what you see missing in the world today. The world is missing you. Till next time, be exquisite.